session.
Apologies, go right ahead.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to join the members of the Mohammed Sanusi second cohort. I've got some slides that I'd like to share. Can you give me, okay.
Just 1 second, we'll do. Okay, you should have access now.
All right, thank you so much. Okay. 8. Right, so I'm here this evening to talk about the teacher as a leader in a changing world. I believe we're all teachers here, we're all educators, because the project was aimed at teachers and creating teachers that will make a lasting impact in their community. So like Seth said, yeah, I've been in the teaching in the education sector for a long time. I was a teacher in the UK and I've taught in Nigeria. And at the moment, I am the head of administration at a school in Abuja. So I'm glad to be here with you. I'm also the director of Black Belts at 1 Million Teachers. So I'm going to start off with some questions to break the ice. Just a teaser, I know you all know the answer, but just so we get, what is the role of a teacher? Can you please type in the chat what you think the role of a teacher is? It's just something to break the ice. But you know, we are multi-tasking, multi-talented individuals as teachers. So what are the kind of things that teachers do? What are the roles of teachers? To inspire and encourage. Thank you, Mariam Fumilayo. Alero Thompson says, a teacher is to instruct, guide, mold, build, and nurture learners and be a role model. Thank you. Joseph Ogbonaya says, to lead students, to take ownership of their learning. Hansawu, I hope I pronounced your name properly, deliver classroom instruction that helps students learn. David said to build capacity. Any more? Any more answers? To facilitate, I love that one. Abubakari Isa, to facilitate learning. Teachers are also life builders and culture shapers. Fantastic. Uwezo Ramazani, to guide students to unpack their full potential. Wonderful. Thank you. To inspire. That is inspirational, Alero. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Teachers have so many roles. Yes, motivators, learning facilitators, explainers, nurses, psychologists, name it, teachers have to do it. So teachers are involved in many roles. Is someone who is embodying knowledge to people. Thank you, Aliyu Salisu. Thank you very much. So as we can see, the role of a teacher is wide and varied. But how do we cope in a changing society? So one of the I did see somebody said motivator, somebody said learning facilitator, leader, role model. What about a social innovator, which is what most of you are trying to be? We're going to get onto these other names. So as a teacher, you are a leader to your pupils. They do look up to you. And we spoke about the roles and responsibilities of a teacher. But what about in a changing world? Because definitely our society, our classrooms are different from the classrooms that we were sitting in maybe 10 years ago as a pupil. If you look back to when you were a pupil? Did you have smart boards? Did you have mobile phones? Did you have tablets? Did you have all the technology? What are the things that have changed? So the second question that I'd like you to put in the chat box, what are the things that have changed when you were in primary school or secondary school to what is happening in primary schools and secondary schools now? What are the differences? Can we type that in the chat, please? I like it to be interactive. I don't want you just sitting there listening. I want you to interact. So what are the things? Put it in the chat. What are the things that have changed? What are the things that are changing in the world since you were in the classroom as a pupil, as a student? Please put it in the chat. The things that have changed since you were in the classroom. Teaching methodologies, thank you. Technology, thank you. Technology was not a word. Let me read that again. Technology was not a word common during our own days. Now technology is the norm in many classrooms. Thank you, Mariam Fumilayo. Aliyu Sali, so the mindset, the technological advancement, learning materials are now in the digital form. So there is a common answer there, that technology. We all appreciate that technology is key in our classrooms today. So, like I said, where in your school do you see change? Why must teachers adapt to change? What are the change drivers? And how have you changed? So these are some of the questions that we're going to be discussing this evening, because we all appreciate that there have been changes, especially in technology. But in your school that you're working at the moment, where exactly do you see the change? And who are the people that are driving that change? And why must we as teachers adapt to the change? And how have you changed as a teacher? So these are the questions that we're going to. So these are some of the drivers of change, ICT. So well done to all those who mentioned technology, that the internet, there was no internet when I was at school. I think it was when I was finishing my degree that computers were coming out and we were using Word and learning how to type in Word. So internet and technology is now at our fingertips, and we can connect with the world more than ever before, even on our phones. Our mobile phones are mini computers. So there is a need to overcome the limited access to resources. Jobs, technology, and associated poverty requires innovative thinking. So that's where we come in as a social innovator. So as teachers, how are we going to help solve the social problems that we have due to the limited access to resources? Not everyone has access to technology. So what can we do as leaders in education to help our pupils, our students access technology? Globalization, the world is now a smaller place. So Seth is in London, I'm in Nigeria. Some of you are in different parts of Africa, but yet there is an interaction and integration between peoples from different nations and different areas of the world. We have different worldviews, and all these lead to social change. So how can teachers be social innovators and come up with solutions to problems to help to make the world a better place? So our goal as teachers is to raise well-adjusted children who are global citizens. Please excuse me, I'm coming. Sorry, I'm back now. So, like I was saying, these are the drivers of change. These are the big changes that are happening. Like I said, ICT, limited resources, and globalization. So teachers that are going to address these issues, what characters do these teachers have to help them become leaders, leaders of change or change agents? Because like I said, the world is changing and we can't be seen to be lagging behind. How do we keep up? So there are many other characteristics of good teachers, but I'm just going to speak about these four, and they all overlap and interlinked. The personality. Somebody spoke about mindset. Teachers are leaders. The vision, what vision do you have? And what kind of knowledge do we need to have? So talking about personality, there is this famous quote from Maya Angelou. I'm sure many of you have heard of Maya Angelou, where she says, they may forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And these days, we don't only talk about the intelligent quotient, they also talk about the emotional quotient or emotional intelligence. So great teachers tend to have the right combination of characteristics and qualities that form their distinctive character. So these days, it's not just about how much information you know, but how much empathy you can show. How do you make your pupils feel? Can you step into the shoes of your pupils? So making them feel comfortable and having a good rapport, getting to know them, building a good relationship with them. Once they trust you, once they like you, you've got half of the battle won. So how do we build a good relationship with our pupils? We also talk about the role of professional and personal values. The teaching is just as important as any other profession. So what are your professional values that you carry with you in class? Somebody also typed in that a teacher has to be a good role model. And we're going to talk about that later. Then lifelong learning. That's one of the things I love about our 1 million teachers is the lifelong learning. So it's not just that CPD that you do and you forget about it. With 1 million teachers, you never stop learning because new content is being added all the time. So you keep up to date with the latest developments in education. Reflection. After the lesson, do we go back and sit down and think, what went well? What could I do better? Are we reflective teachers? Do we learn from our mistakes? So these are the kind of personalities that we need to have in order to foster change, or as a modern teacher. It's about, like I said, the emotional intelligence, the emotional quotient. How do the pupils feel around you? What kind of relationship do you have with your pupils? Leadership by example. Like I said, I was going to talk about being good role models. You can't say, do as I say, but not as I do. And I've listed so many examples. So in order to develop the moral character, teachers must possess unquestionable sets of morality themselves, integrity. You have to show integrity. So there's a saying that goes, values are not taught, but caught. If teachers tell their students to be punctual, but they themselves show up to school late, no one will believe the value of this virtue. Nobody is going to believe you. Or if you tell students to respect one another, but you engage in slandering fellow teachers or slandering the head of department or the head of the school, how do you expect the pupils to behave? If you're teaching them about the health effects of cigarette smoking, but you yourself smoke, the children are not going to take you serious. So values can be taught, but the best way is by example, by leadership. So if values are not taught, then there's no point in including values formation in educational curricula. I know in Nigeria, we have this subject called national values, which is a bit of a joke, because as we know, on the worldwide corruption index, Nigeria is quite high there. So what values, and our leaders in Nigeria do not show good examples to the followers. So I don't know what we're meant to teach them in national values, but that's just one of the subjects that we have in secondary school. So leaders are responsible. And what are the we spoke about some of the responsibilities of teachers. So you have to hold yourself accountable and be responsible. Knowledge. Like I said, one of the advantages of 1 million teachers is that there are so much content to enrich your knowledge and have good pedagogy and effective classroom practices. Good teachers, good leaders recognize the importance of learning standards and the significance of assessments and collecting data. And they use this data to inform their planning and provide solutions. So if you're a reflective teacher, after each lesson, you can look back when you get your pupils' books. That can tell you if the learning objective was met, how many of your pupils met the learning objective. What should we do in our next lesson? Is our teaching about finishing the scheme or helping children learn? As a teacher, are you always eager to finish your scheme, or are you particular about the children learning? If the children don't have the basic knowledge or the previous knowledge, how can you justify finishing a topic when they don't even have the basic or the previous knowledge to move on to the next topic? So these are the kind of reflective questions that we need to ask ourselves as teachers. I keep going on about 1 million teachers and lifelong learning. And one of my favorite quotes is, he who dares to teach never ceases to learn. I hope you've all heard of that quote before. He who dares to teach never ceases to learn. A teacher never stops learning because the world is changing. Is your mobile phone the same mobile phone that you were using 3 years ago? Is your TV the same TV that you were using 5 years ago? So why should your teaching be stuck in the 80s and 90s? Why should your teaching methodology be stuck 20 years back? Leaders never stop learning and honing their skills. Leaders are introspective and reflective. Leaders in education are familiar with current research and best practices in education and other related fields. They maintain a personal plan for self-improvement. They keep abreast with the latest developments and with continuous professional development. They balance their professional and personal lives, making time for other interests. So it doesn't mean because you're a teacher, you have no time for yourself. We know that this profession is very, very stressful. I mean, I'm working as a school administrator now and dealing with admissions for the new session. It's crazy. but it doesn't mean that I shouldn't make time to relax and regain my strength. It doesn't mean that I shouldn't take my mental health as important as my physical health. We should find ways in which we unwind and relax so that we don't let our careers ruin our health. Our physical health and mental health is very, very important. So we need to find that balance. We need to find that balance between our professional and personal lives. Are there any other things that you think teachers as leaders need to do to get the best? Are there any other things? Can we chat? So I've put up lifelong learning, never stop learning and honing their skills, introspective and reflective, familiar with current research and best practices, maintaining a personal plan for self-improvement, keeping abreast with the latest developments and continuous professional development, balancing your professional and personal lives. I want us to talk about this a bit more. Whether you have a comment on any of these points or you want to add more or you want to ask a question, let's put it in the chat. What do you think of these points that I've just mentioned about effective leadership? What does effective leadership mean to you? Do you agree with the points that I've put up? Have you got anything to add? Please let's chat. It's been a bit quiet for a while and I want some interaction. So Kila saw Emmanuel, thank you for pointing this out. I was sent out of my class during my undergraduate day because I request that my lecturer should use new examples that we can relate with rather than 1880 examples. Teachers are learners and should know that they can learn from their learners too. Absolutely, absolutely true, Emmanuel. Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Seminars, symposia, conferences, conventions are avenues that can make teachers more effective and make them motivated to teach and learn. Thank you, Mariam Fumilayo. Thank you. Yeah, I spoke about the relationship and having a good rapport. One of the and also relating to them. If you're teaching a group of boys, you have to know about football because that's all they talk about and that's all they care about. If you talk about examples about, I don't know, Manchester United or Liverpool winning or losing or, talk about things that are relevant to them, not things that are relevant to the past, like the example you gave. Teaching is listening. Exactly. Are we good listeners? I like that one. Because often we think communication is just about talking. But listening is also a form of communication. Thank you very much for those points. We also need to work on having town hall meetings for teachers regularly. No, Mr. Know-it-all. Exactly. Google knows it all these days, not you. They also deserve to attend wellness retreats and global opportunities through scholarships and fellowships. Fantastic, Fumilayo and McDonald. Exactly. That's a really important point that McDonald brought up. You don't know it all anymore because with technology, just go to Google and ask a question. So we're there to facilitate the learning, not to go there and just, regurgitate all this information. You need to facilitate the learning. We talk about project-based learning these days, where you give children a problem to solve. Okay, so we need to move, are we applying project-based learning, 21st century teaching? What are the 4 C's of 21st century teaching? Let's see how many of you know that. Are we all 21st century teachers? What are our is it 3 C's or 4 C's? Can we type them in the chat, please? Collaboration. Thank you, Emmanuel. Emotional intelligence, yes. Thank you, Ifeoma Obiora. Right, collaboration, what's another C? Creative thinking. Thank you, Ifeoma. Thank you, Joseph. Critical thinking, communication. Yes, communication, collaboration, critical thinking, collaboration, creativity, creative thinking. Thank you. So we are 21st century teachers. That's fantastic. So all we need now is to go out and make that difference in our pupils' lives. Now that we know what educational leadership is about. So vision, you need to have a vision. You need to have a vision. You cannot be a true leader without a vision. You need courage to risk failure. You need courage to be authentic and true to your values. You need courage to own up to your own mistakes and say, we are wrong. You're not always right and you don't know everything. Be teachable. You don't know everything. Be teachable. Be willing to learn. Okay? It's not always physical. Like we're in a classroom now. We're in a virtual classroom. The classroom has moved away from four walls. We can talk to anybody in any part of the world. So we need to have innovative environments. We need to take responsibilities. What goals have you set yourself? What targets? We need to be able to solve problems. That's where the social innovator, an educational leader is a social innovator. We're solving community problems. And I was glad that everybody spoke about communication in the 21st century skills. And we need to be confident because once you have the knowledge, you will be confident. Once you keep up to date with your professional development and you have that knowledge, that will boost your confidence because you know what you're talking about. Okay, so educational leadership in a changing world is about having a vision. You have to set your goals. You have to know where you're going and you have to have targets for your own self-development. Okay, knowledge. Teachers are also expected to hone on the talents and gifts of the students. So it's not about going out and pouring out all that knowledge. It's about facilitating and motivating. Okay, so you must plan varied learning experiences which will bring out the potentials of your students. You must shun traditional teaching and embrace modern strategies that will spark dynamism inside the classroom. Student-centered teaching. It's not about you. Put yourself in the shoes of your learners. How do you think they feel if you were in their shoes? You must encourage students to be active and contribute to their talents in realizing the learning objectives. Don't give them everything. Question them, ask them, encourage them, motivate them, facilitate their learning. Train your students to achieve excellence in whatever skills they possess. If teachers are able to produce skilled and talented students, the community will have excellent young people who will contribute to national development. So if you are motivating the children to learn and become excellent, imagine what impact that is going to have on society. Mariam Fumilaya says, it's okay to say to our students, we don't know when we truly do not know. In as much as we are teachers, we can learn from our students. Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't be shy to say you don't know. Okay, so we've been talking about how we can empower ourselves as teachers and what are the outcomes. So when you become more knowledgeable, when you embrace 21st century teaching, when you know what you're talking about and you're learning about the latest research in education and pedagogy, you'll be involved in decisions around curriculum and textbooks and goal setting. You'll be able to look at a textbook and say, I don't want to use this textbook anymore. It's outdated. This curriculum does not apply to my pupils' needs, we need to follow a better curriculum. Or even I can put together some ideas for a better curriculum. So you will gain professional respect from your peers because your expertise is now being acknowledged. You believe that you have the skills to perform the job because you've upskilled yourself. You become more knowledgeable about your subjects, your professional, you have professional growth, and then you create an impact on your pupils. There is an influence on your teaching and learning process because you have now improved yourself. You're impacting the teaching and learning. Your teaching and learning now becomes better. And now you have autonomy over your work. You have control over certain aspects of your work. And this is what you should be as an empowered teacher, as a teacher that is a leader in a changing world. So this is how a teacher should be as a leader in a changing world. You should be involved in decision making. You should change your status. You should be creating an impact in society, and you should be having professional growth. Kilaso Emmanuel says, great countries are built by great citizens who are empowered and taught to become problem solvers and social innovators. Wow, I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much, Kilaso Emmanuel. That is fantastic. That's awesome. I want to read it again. Great countries are built by great citizens who are empowered and taught to become problem solvers and social innovators. And imagine the impact that that would have on our society. McDonald Unguluwe says vision must be flexible but original. As long as there is a curriculum to follow, the objectives can be changed to align them with the learner's abilities. Excellent. As we know, all our learners are different. We have learners with different learning styles. We have learners with different learning abilities. How do we accommodate all these different learners and improve the way they learn and make them become empowered? And once our learners are empowered, our society, it will impact our society and there will be a change. And that's how you become a social innovator. So that's all I wanted to talk to you about today. I am going to, yes, that's all I wanted to talk to you about today. If you've got any questions or any comments, you can unmute yourself and talk to me. So thank you so much for listening. And now we can have any questions. Seth, don't know if you want to.
Sure, yeah, to say a few words. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us and for doing that session. I think it's just it's a wonderful opportunity to refocus ourselves on what it is that we do within the classroom, what's the core of what our offering as a teacher is, and how can we actually shape those values and use those perspectives that we've built up over years, right, to help support a wider group of students, right? You know, and taking those values and really thinking consciously and considering where those values show up in your projects, and making sure not to develop projects or ideas or initiatives that aren't in line with how you would actually show up in a classroom with the number of students that you might normally show up with. So oftentimes when we think of scaling, right, we think of going to thousands of students, right? But often there's a risk, right, of losing the humanity, right, the personal connection, right, the emotion, and all of these other elements of what it is what makes you all excellent teachers, right? So just being conscientious about each of those things, right, and designing for each of those things in your projects, I think is so important. So thank you. It's been a really, a great reminder, I think, of all of these things. So thank you so much for leading the session. So we have time, of course, to have some questions, to discuss how these things show up in your own projects and in your own your own work in the classroom as well. So I'm sure we can take some time and have a few questions. So who has anything to say, even comments, right, or observations, even if a question's yet to form, feel free to chime in with whatever you've taken.
Good evening, everyone. This is Mariam. Thank you, Mrs. Fatima Bujimi, for, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you,
Okay.
Mariam.
Yes, thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. And I have a question. I really liked one of the slides that you presented to us, the one that said we need to shun the traditional way of teaching and embrace the modern way of teaching. And to me, that really made me remember something here. So I'm currently in Ghana, and I've noticed,
really?
yes, yeah, I'm from Nigeria. I live in Ghana.
Ghana, okay.
So I noticed that most schools here, although I'm glad that my school doesn't use it because it's a girls only senior high school, but in most schools, the junior high or the primary schools, they use cane a lot. And of course, I'm not surprised because being an African myself, growing up, we were exposed to that. I went to Catholic school, so if you get to school late, you'll be punished physically. But I think, like you said, the world has changed. And now, as a parent, I feel that using cane in these days and times for children that are under us, not just our children in school, it's counter-effective to their learning. And because of the African culture, children don't talk back to parents. It's not like some places in the West where you can face your parents and be rude. No, African culture really values respect. Most children get lost during the teaching moments after being spanked physically, either using a cane on their head, which I have frowned against and talked about, but the teachers are so used to it that they believe that without the use of physical or corporal punishment, these children, especially boys, would not learn. And it's very unfortunate that they keep on targeting boys because we assume that boys are rough. Yeah, they are more active than girls generally. But that's where you see some teachers labeling some boys have autistic problems or they have mental issues. Sometimes they come to school without eating breakfast. So that would impact their learning facility. Sometimes it's maybe domestic abuse or something that happened in their home that when they get to class, they just act out. And the answer should not be caning. And I've seen that a lot here in Ghana. So I hope the environment in Nigeria has changed because I know growing up there, it was something that we were used to. But now I think that traditional form of teaching should be eradicated fully because we are losing most of our children, and our children are not telling us that, okay, they can't even tell us that this is not, I don't understand this subject because you caned me for failing or you caned me for not speaking out. They can't tell us because they're African children. They rather swallow it and go and tell somebody else. So how can we change that particular way of teaching?
Okay, thank you, Mariam. Yeah, it's still practiced in a lot of public schools in Nigeria. So, and even in the private schools, I've worked at private schools where you go there and you tell them, this is the better way of discipline. You need to show empathy. You need to build a relationship with pupils. But because they have this traditional, like you said, this traditional belief that spare the rod and I've forgotten the saying, spare the rod and spoil the child. I don't know, somebody can help me with that saying. If your mouth, what did you say?
Yeah.
Spare the rod.
And spoil
A lot, exactly. a lot of African, I mean, even my parents, I mean, I didn't want to bring up my children like that, but a lot of African parents still believe that if you're my, please mute yourself. All right. So it's the mindset, Mariam. It's only by changing the mindset, changing the way they see discipline and the way they see child development and the way they see teaching, that we can change such people. We need to change their mindset, change the way they look at discipline, change the way they see behavior management, talk about positive behavior management. These days, you talk about the positives to a child. You understand, blessing, please mute yourself. Yeah, you need to understand how the child feels and how children learn. And you have to have emotional intelligence, like I said. So it's all through developing yourself, developing your understanding of education and child development, and knowing that spanking, corporal punishment, physical punishment doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't make the child feel good about themselves, how they want to learn. So, but it's only through education, professional development, developing yourself, developing your mindset, having a growth mindset, and a positive growth mindset, not a fixed mindset, that would change such people. That's the only way they could change. Okay. I see somebody else with her hand up. I hope that helps answer your question, Mariam.
Yes, yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Ololade Ogunubi, have your hand up. Ololade, would you like to mute and ask your question?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, Lolade.
Yeah, so sorry, I was distracted a bit. All right, so I know in the course of the presentation you spoke about we as teachers being role models, and I think you said give an example about smoking and right?
Yes.
But
yes.
what about we that we are in a situation where, well, my project is all about empowering IDP camp children with the right information and also with basic numeracy and literacy. But
yes.
it's so sad that the more you try to talk to them or serve as role model to them in terms of social skills, right? It's so sad that because they go back to the camp or they still live with people on the camp where they're like these social vices. I know I've been to camps oftentimes and you're saying either SAS or was it NDLEA, right? Raiding the camp because they got it that there are guys that are into drugs on the camp and many more. So how do we really, because it felt like you're doing so much to make sure these children turn out to be positive children or future leaders in the society, but they still go back to pick up like bad vices from the community or their environment. So it feels like one is still going in circles. I don't know if you understand my question.
Yeah, I
So
understand what you mean, but if we educate them about the harms of drugs, we educate them about, how bad drinking and taking drugs is for you as a young child. We need to give them the right information. Once they have the right information, they will learn the difference between right and wrong. It doesn't mean that there's nobody in society that is doing something that we don't like, and we cannot correct everybody in society, but we can teach children that, healthy eating is good for you. You should eat more fruit and vegetable. It doesn't mean that somebody around them is not drinking fizzy drinks or eating something unhealthy, but they know that what they're eating or what they're doing is better for them. So it's better for them to stay away from drugs because these are the consequences of hard drugs. It's better for you to be educated because you'll be better informed and you'll be able to get a better job. So let them see the positive outcomes and the positivity and the advantages rather than homing on the bad things and the disadvantages around them. Yes, there are people around you. It's difficult, very difficult in an ID camp, but it doesn't mean that we can still not educate people as to what is the better way, what is the better option rather than the wrong option. And they can see so many examples of the wrong people who have taken the wrong decision, the wrong choices. You know, with teenagers, I know we're constantly talking to them about taking the right choices, and there's peer pressure and there's so much around them. But if they build, that's why we said about building that trust, that relationship, that rapport. When they like you, when they trust you, they'll listen to you. So many times have you not heard parents say, oh, my child doesn't listen to me. She says, oh, Miss Fatima said this, Miss Fatima said that. Then even the mom will come, Miss Fatima, he doesn't listen to anything I say at home. Oh, it's always Miss Fatima said this, Miss Fatima said don't do that. So we have a big influence. We have a big, big impact. Don't ever underestimate your influence. You have a great influence on the children. So you just keep telling them what's right, you know, and they will learn the difference. They will know the difference between right and wrong. You know, you have a great influence on children. So keep telling them to take the right choices. Keep showing them the right options. Okay, Lolade, are you with me? Lolade?
Yes, ma, I'm with you. It's
Okay,
just that,
okay.
but I know, and I hope we get there someday. Especially when
We
it
will.
comes with
Don't give up. Be hopeful. Don't give up.
even teenage pregnancy. I remember during the
Exactly,
holiday.
but you still have to give them the sex education. You still have to advise
Seriously,
them. Yeah,
yeah.
it's hard, but we can't give up on them. They're our future. They're the future generation. We can't give up on them. You know, it's like as parents as well. We keep telling our children, eventually it will click one day. Oh, you know, you did say that, you know, we don't give up. We don't give up. We keep reminding them and telling them, you know. So that's all you can do. Keep educating them and, you know, build a good relationship with them. Let them like you, let them trust you, and they'll listen to you.
All right. Thank you, ma.
All right, thank you. Aliyu Salisu.
Yes, mom.
Oh, power cut in Nigeria.
All right. Thank you so much.
Anyway, you
much.
can hear my voice, but you can't see me anymore.
All right.
Anyway.
Never mind.
Yes.
Never mind, mom. Thank you so much for this wonderful lecture. I'm really found it very educative. And the things that is really impressive me is the title of these lectures, which is Teacher as a Leader in a Changing World.
Exactly.
So this title is really impressive me, of course. And in this point, what I would like to add is I have noticed it in our community that if you don't have money, you are an entity in nowadays life. So that is why would you please to clarify for us on how to change the mindset of our community people to respect teacher than any rich people in the community? Because
wow, that's a big
as
one.
I said, people are much respecting.
Yeah, we live in
to
a
the rich
material
people.
world. Yes, Aliyu, we live in a material world. We live in a material world, but you know, a teacher, like I said, the way a teacher can empower themselves and make themselves leaders is number one, like I said, being a good role model, showing empathy, showing that you care about them, and also improving your subject knowledge, your skills and your knowledge, so they know that you know what you're talking about and you know how to deal. People will respect you. We are the professions that teach all other professions. You know, we are, look, I asked you to tell me the roles of a teacher. We are the change makers. We are the motivators. We are the moms, the dads, the nurse, the psychologist, we teach the doctor, we train the lawyer, you have to go through a teacher to become whatever you want to become. And you have to show them that you have got something to give and you are confident in who you are as a teacher. It is unfortunate in African societies that teachers are not paid well. Teachers are seen as poor people. Oh, your reward is in heaven. No, we can change all that. We can empower ourselves. Let us empower ourselves and show them that we are not that, and teachers don't have to be poor. There's so many opportunities for teachers. There's so many things that teachers can do to empower themselves. But as for people not liking poor people, I don't know what I can do about that, because like I said, we live in a very materialistic world where, when people have money, people have a certain power. But your biggest power is your knowledge and your ability to empower others. Your ability to empower others, to enlighten. Like Lola Day, for example, that was just talking about. How would it feel if somebody came from an ID camp and you've been able to persuade them not to get into drugs, not to get into gangs, not to get into teenage pregnancy, and you've given them the opportunity to become a better person? People will respect you for that. People will respect you for the difference that you're making in people's lives. And that is something that teachers do. In developed countries, teachers are paid well, and teachers are respected. But I don't know if you're from Nigeria or not, but in Nigeria, the problem starts from entry into university. They choose the graduates, or the pupils with the lowest score go into education. And it's the job that if you don't get a job, go and be a teacher. But these days, there's so many things that teachers can do, especially since COVID, with online teaching and so many other things that you can do. You have to be innovative. You have to think of problems to solve, and people will respect you for that. We cannot change society's opinion about teaching, but once we become knowledgeable, we become empowered. And once you start having an effect on the children, and the children become something, they will respect you. So you can gain a lot of respect from being a teacher. You can gain a lot of respect because you're changing minds. We spoke about changing the mindset. I was talking to Mariam about how we need to change the mindset, how we need to go from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. Like I said, we're like psychologists, we're like nurses or doctors, all in one. So it depends on how you present yourself and how confident you are within yourself, that people respect you. But yes, we do have that problem in Africa. No respect for teachers, no good pay for teachers. But teachers can do more for themselves. That's what I say. We can do a lot more. There's so much more that you can do as a teacher to gain that respect. So don't ever feel like you are poor. Teachers are not poor. We're not poor in knowledge. We're not poor in understanding. We're not poor in personal development. So you need to develop yourself professionally and you will be respected. I hope that answers your question a bit.
Yes, of course, Mark. Thank you so much.
Okay, all right.
And I really found today's lecture very much relevant to this program than any other lectures we have.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Blessing. Blessing has her hand up. Maybe she's not there. Isa.
Actually,
okay,
mine
Blessing.
is a contribution.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Blessing.
Okay, mine is actually a contribution.
Yes, go ahead.
I just want to contribute towards this discussion.
Go ahead.
Okay. The first Miriam was asking, she asked a question, and I wanted to contribute that in time things will change. My school was the first nursery and the first early years school in my environment around in my locality. It was the first true early years school. In the beginning, many people just laughed about it. Like nursery school is you're supposed to just play, sleep, and dance. What do they do there? It took a while. It took years. It took talking and trainings. Even the teachers who worked with us, it was difficult to convince them that hitting children is not acceptable. It's not a measure for correction. It took time. Teachers will hide in their class, will hide sticks in their classes to hit children. They will have ruler and tell you they want to use it to rule the children's book, but they will prefer wooden rulers just because they want to hit the children. However, in time, it took years of training. We started in 1999, and now it's a norm. Parents left us in the beginning. They said they didn't know what we were teaching. And in 2008, we stopped teaching letter alphabet and started doing Jolly Phonics.
Jolly Phonics.
People found it not acceptable. Children should write. Yes, like in the beginning, it was like children should write ABC. Children should write 1 to 100. A 3-year-old. What is a 3-year-old writing for you? You know, it took time, years to convince the parents. And by 2010, they started seeing the proceed. They started seeing the success children were making. Today, sitting at the admission desk, I'm busy telling parents, no space. And they're telling me, please, we'll bring our chairs. This year, I started by 2010, I started campaigning for equal education for the special needs children. Though I didn't have the resources, but we did it the best we could to at least give them some kind of training that gave them made them like self-reliant to an extent. Parents laughed at us. Some didn't want their children to be in the inclusive class with the special needs children. Even those who had the special needs children felt it was a waste of money. We worked and worked and worked and worked for this thing. Sometimes we had to abandon it, but sometime 2 years ago, we started it again with a lot of zeal. Like someday somebody will fund this project, somebody will support us, somebody will help us to. I'm sitting today, this very day, I was seated at the desk explaining to a parent that we are full. If we want to do the best, we can take a limited number of children. It's so it's something
That's
that
such an
gives me
amazing
joy that
story.
at
That's
least
such an
at this
inspirational
point people
story.
are beginning.
Yeah, yeah. Like I was saying to
Yes.
Adiyu, you have to keep at it. You have to be consistent. You have to be consistent to be successful. You know, don't give up. Don't give up. Consistency, resilience. Yeah, thank you, Blessing, for that contribution. That's a wonderful story. Well done. So you were resilient, you kept at it, you didn't give up, you stuck to your guns, you stuck to your principles, and now people are begging for space. Wonderful story. Well done. Well done, Blessing. Thank you for your contribution. Can you hear me, Blessing? Are you with me?
Yes, we can. Yes, I can.
Okay.
Listening. Yes, I was just
Okay.
listening to
Okay.
you.
Well done. That's awesome. I really like your story. It's inspirational, you know. So, and like I said, the lessons I've learned from your story is to be consistent and keep doing the good things that you're doing. If in the beginning people don't believe in you, in the end, when they see the results, they will certainly believe in you. And that's what's happened. That's a great story. I wish you more success. Thank you. All right. I can't see any other hands up. Maybe Seth, is that all for now?
I think that was it. Yeah, we've got Blessing's hand still up there, unless you have another question. But great. If there's nothing else from anyone, then I guess we'll call it for tonight. Thank you so much, Mrs. Ogunjimi, for being here, for speaking just so eloquently about the role of the teacher and about the role of innovators in this space, and how important it is that we challenge norms that we might be in the waters of, right? That we might be living, and that we might have embedded into our own psyche, right, through the training that we received, right, as children, right? And that's a hard process to do, right? To reject some of those things that we've learned along the way, and to help guide others through that process of rejecting things that might be so easy to draw on, might be so natural for us to fall back on. But we know better, we've learned better, and we've found better ways that can help carry education forward for others in a more true reflection of our values. So I really appreciated this conversation, and hope everyone else did too. Again, we have a session next week with Mr. Sadish Bala. And Sadish is a founder of an edtech company based in Canada, but it's an online metaverse-based learning platform. So they're doing some really interesting and innovative work as well. So it'll be a very different conversation, and that one's going to be focused on the concept of product market fit. So look forward to that one. Again, for this week, no assignments, but I know you all have so much work on the go with your projects right now. So keep at that. You're all just doing such amazing work, and it's so nice to hear your stories when we do have time to hear from each of you. So it's wonderful. So thank you all so much, and have a lovely evening. And I'm going to stop the recording.